Okay.
You're unmuted.
Really manages that meeting.
You're also quiet.
Thinking about that cake you were talking about.
It was really good.
Great. Welcome, everyone. I'm going to call this meeting to order. Today is November 25th, 2025. This is the Benzie County Board of Commissioners study session. Could I get a roll call, please?
Not
Here.
Markey,
Here.
Matthews,
Here.
Nye,
Here.
Roloff is absent. Sauer,
Here.
Trigg,
Here.
we have a quorum.
Please rise and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please be seated. We have an agenda before us. I'm going to propose, since we have a room full of folks representing the Road Commission, that we switch B and A to address and the topics for discussion.
Make a motion that we approve the agenda as amended.
Matthew second.
Motion and support. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Motion's carried. We have minutes before us from 10:14 to consider.
Jeanette moves to approve the minutes as presented. Sauer seconds.
Motion and support. Any further discussion? Hearing none. If you're in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That motion carries. That brings us to our first public comment. Is there anyone who would like to speak? Seeing none, I will close public comment. And that brings us to our HR update.
Alrighty, so in your packet, Leslie provided a little one pager that went over what's going on in human resources. She did revamp the old one, gave it a new look. So as far as the staffing update goes, we do have 2 openings right now, Road Patrol and Corrections Sergeant. We have filled quite a few positions over the last some time, and we're recruiting for more positions. As I touched on this morning, Animal Control Officer, we're interviewing more people next week. Leslie is doing a deep dive into the payroll system and really just looking at it from a, fresh eye, fresh perspective as to what could change, what could tweak, what needs to be fixed, and those sorts of things. So a lot of adjustments are happening in the background of it to try to streamline the BSNA suite. There's still a lot of things with the BSNA that we believe could be better, but it's what we have, and we're working through it to try to make it as seamless as possible for payroll going forward. And then also policies and procedures are on our list. I do want to highlight we are holding an education event coming up. It's a MERS education event on December 2nd. And so we would invite anyone who wanted to talk to folks from MERS about their retirement and what that looks like and what that means to stop by on December 2nd, because someone from MERS will be here for the staff.
Any questions for Katie?
If I could.
Sure.
Katie, and I know this is outside of our bailiwick, but can you describe what the resumes look like for both the jail administrator and the deputy treasurer that's been hired?
Sure. So the chief deputy treasurer who has been hired, who will start December 2nd, currently works for the county treasurer of Grand Traverse County and has worked there for quite some time. In that office, she has held various different positions within the treasurer's office. So always the deputy treasurer, but because they're a larger organization, you can be the animal licensing specialist or and so forth. And so she's been in the county treasurer's office for quite some time. She does live in Lake Ann and is coming to us from there. So that's really exciting. Patty is her name. The jail administrator, Ella Simmons, she has been a corrections deputy for 20 plus years, not always with Benzie County. She's worked in other counties in the past, I believe Manistee right before she came to us. Wealth of knowledge, great leadership skills, always looking to hone in and enhance her leadership as well. Greg reached out to me not too long ago about some leadership trainings that she could possibly attend. So coming to us with a wealth of knowledge in corrections and from various counties. So bringing in that outside perspective as well. And I also know she's well respected by the sheriff, the undersheriff, and the other corrections deputies.
How about the deputy treasurer that's there now?
Yes, so the deputy treasurer that's here now, Evan Haskin, is coming to us from Traverse City. He worked previously for Captain's Quarters, doing the cash receipting and balancing on the daily for Captain's Quarters in Traverse City. This is his first local government job.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Any other questions? Very good. That moves us along to our topics for continued discussion. And we're going to open the floor regarding the Road Commission building future. Katie, do you want to start this conversation? And then we'll invite whoever is ready to come up and do this. Do you want to start this?
Sure. So we have many representatives here from the Road Commission today to talk to the board about what the future of the Road Commission building and that project looks like. As you know, recently it did not pass at the ballot box, but we do know that there is a problem. There's a problem that's been identified for quite some time with the building and the fact that it is inadequate, cannot be upgraded, given its current stance. It is a very old building that's been added on a multitude of times over time, and it's just not meeting the needs or the future needs of the Road Commission. There is issues, I know, with height. The trucks are much bigger than they were in the 30s, so they're barely making the clearance into the building. There's other heating issues. There's braces that are in the current building that are holding it up. So if there's a heavy snowfall, there is concern regarding that. So after the election, Troy and I chatted about, what do we do going forward? Because either way, we need a building for these trucks. And so the idea would be to pursue another avenue with the bond. So there's two different types of bonds. There's the bond where you go to the voters and the taxpayers pay directly through a millage for the bond payments. And then there's general obligation bonds that are paid for through your normal general funds that come into your agency. So we went after the tax, out to do a millage to have the taxpayers pay back the obligation bond, and that was not successful. So we're looking at pursuing paying for it on an internal basis. This is Road Commission internal, obviously not Benzie County internal. And given the changes of funding mechanisms at the state and federal level, there is a desire to utilize some of that additional funding that should be coming in with the changes of the taxes at the state level to pay towards this bond. But either way, the county still has to go after the bond. Going after this bond changes things a little bit. So if Benzie County were to decide to bond this project, there's a holding period where the community could petition a referendum to stop the bonding. If that doesn't happen, then the bond would go through from there. And so there's a few extra different steps that go into bonding of this nature versus going after a bond where the taxpayers pay through a millage. In your packet, you do see a draft RFP. And really what we're after here is, I think what we all heard loud and clear from the community is, yes, we believe there's a need, but the cost is wild. And so the idea here is to really hone in on the drawings, hone in on the need, and get some more accurate numbers as to what it would look like to build this building going forward. What we have in place now, are somewhat conceptual still. And so the idea would be to take it to that next step to get some, design build sort of drawings and have some accurate estimates put together by a firm, kind of like what we did with the dispatch expansion. Ray Kendra of Environment Architects put together the design and the schematics and actually put a number to what he believed it would cost. So we had a more accurate number moving forward versus saying an up to number that, based on the numbers you see in your packet, could come down $3 million almost. So we want to make sure that we're going about it in an accurate need standpoint, and make it clear to the community too, this isn't about bells and whistles. This is really about the need for the Road Commission and the growth of the Road Commission in Benzie County.
Great start for us. So whoever wants to speak on behalf of the Road Commission, could you come up and identify yourself and your role at the Road Commission? This will be on YouTube, so we want folks to know who they're listening to.
Troy Hines, I'm the manager at Benzie County Road Commission. We do have some handouts that Joe and I have with us today. think you emailed those.
I did email them to everybody, but
In the back of the
This will be the,
very end, I think.
Push him over here. Thank you.
We got enough.
Thank you. This is a different one.
Oh, well, I mean spares from the other ones. And I suspect one of our commissioners who isn't here might want.
Thank you, Katie.
so I think maybe a good spot to start is can we afford it, which why I brought Joe before you sit down. Come on up here. Joe is our finance manager. He's our numbers guy, so start with that.
Joe Netto, finance manager, soon to be ex-finance manager if things go properly. We'll see how that goes. The question becomes, can we afford to do so? Absolutely, we can. The first schedule you were given, the viewpoint of our MTF revenue, which is our gas tax revenues, since 2020, shows you the actual increases that we've been experiencing year by year, just 2/3 of our revenue cycle. That would be this cycle right here. Okay. Those of you who have that. This gives us a little bit of a background where the bulk of our financing comes from. If you notice, this is the gas tax revenue that's based upon price of gas at the pump. It was this October that changed. We've been hearing stories about, is it going to go up? Is it going to go down? We didn't know until October what the actual finance plan really was going to be. This is why we went for the millage proposal. On our own, if you look at the other schedule here, it talks about our finances here. This is an unofficial summary of 2025 financial. This is our normal road commission operations, but we actually from actual results. You're showing over a $700,000 surplus revenues over expenditures. And that's primarily that we stopped paying additional money into the MERS. We have our MERS over 90% funded. So the extra money we were putting into it over a year, we turned off to make it available for other road projects and different things. And when this first happened, we explored, can this savings be enough to sponsor a road commission building? At the time, we determined, no, not from what we're seeing for cost. We can fund some of it, but definitely not all of it. So as we went through the whole process, the funding became more clear what the new legislation did say. And this is the worksheet that Troy gave you, shows the actual MTF, anticipated MTF revenues that we're going to be receiving over the next several years based upon the new budget the state had approved. 2026, we're going to be seeing a very substantial increase in our funding level, about $1.8 million anticipated in 2026 alone. And the sheet below that tells us what's going to be the year after that. So it's going to escalate to $2.8 million additional from what we're receiving now. We did hear rumblings of what happens if this is going to see a reduction in services to the county. Absolutely not. In fact, you're going to be seeing more services involved. We're in a better position now to address this issue, as well as possible some bridge replacement issues going on too. We got a lot of aging bridges out there with no revenue source how to deal with it. So now we have a venue how we can actually pay for this improvement, which is why we want to discuss that we would like to pursue. It's called a limited tax bond, where the road commission would fund the actual annual bond repayment. Now, we used 18 million as a gauge because obviously with inflationary factors, the cost is only going to increase year after year until the actual construction happens. This is why we went with the amount we did. So Going forward, we want to have enough money to make sure we don't have a shortage, obviously, is what we're trying to do. So given this information and what we have available to us, we already have a $2.5 million investment balance currently that can fund up to the first 2 years of the millage repayment if necessary. But we anticipate the collections of the MTF money starting in March of 2026. We'll see the additional flow of money coming through. And by the time the construction's costs start and we do start seeing the bond payment, we'll have a significant amount of money saved up into our account to make sure we have enough to cover the bond payment and any contingencies that may come up. We looked at two possibilities, a 15-year bond and a 20-year bond. Using Bobby Brzezinski's number that we talked about, at $18 million over 15 years, we're looking at approximately 1.8 million or 1.62 million dollars per year at a 15-year proposal. A 20-year proposal will be low at 1.3 million for 20 years. So which venue we pursue is yet to be determined. But yes, we can afford to make these payments. Yes, we can even increase our services to the community based upon the additional revenues coming in. Wish we'd have known this earlier, but again, this is all over the place until October. We first found out about it. So financially, we can do that. Any questions so far?
Stability. Can you guarantee the state's not gonna cut you back?
Can you guarantee I'm not going to die?
I'm
No.
just saying, because
Yeah.
I'm just going from past practice with the state.
Gary, I've been doing this for 24 years, financials for the road commission. I have never seen a road commission funding package decrease as I've been involved in road commissions. So can I absolutely guarantee that? No, I can't. But there's enough fluff, if you will, and build up that because we want to go 15 years, that we could conceivably, if we had to absorb it later down the road with the added increases, there's a likelihood we can get it, if not all of it, a major portion of it. But no, I can't guarantee you that.
I think the commissioners are gonna worry that if some reason they do cut it, you can't come up with the bond payments. The county can't afford it. Can't
We
afford
understand
it.
that too.
So I just
Yeah,
want you to be, that's why I'm asking.
good question. Can I guarantee that? Absolutely not. I can't. However, we wouldn't come before you with this request if we didn't feel there's enough stability here going forward with the revenues, because obviously the intake of the new money, $2.8 million is much higher than the $1.58 million for the cost of the bond. So obviously we would spend all, we'd have money put aside and obviously to be able to pay the principal down if need be. So there is no guarantee, but I can tell you right now, there's never been a better environment to do this for us from the road commission standpoint than today.
Thank you.
What about, why 15, 20 years? Why not go 30 years plus? I mean, talk about keeping that amount down.
Troy wants to answer that one.
Okay.
Ted.
I'm just more curious, like in a mortgage for 10,
Yeah.
15 years would be different.
Oh, Scott and I were looking at Scott Fossil, our superintendent brought that up this morning. For the 15 years, you're looking at about $3 million worth of interest. And if you go out to 20 years, you're basically doubling that to $6 million worth of interest. And we also had 25 and 30, which I think 30 years ended up being about $12 million worth of interest. So the idea is to pay it off before we accrue all that.
What kind of rate are you looking at? They're using to forecast this?
I think he went 4%.
Okay.
4%?
And this is a new proposal. We've been kicking this around for a good number of years. We've explored every possible venue from rehabbing the old facility to make it more, but again, we're talking, I can sit in my office and I get blown out by diesel. Fumes, garage next door is that bad. Beams are cracked, foundations are cracked. And it'd be more money and it'd be sinking good money into bad ability at the current facility. And now that we have the property next door with the whole property has been raised, ready to go. We have a situation where we can do construction and still provide service to the citizens, uninterrupted services for that. So want to make sure we do this right. We did a very good job, I think, at least, identifying our needs from our wants. And we were very cognizant of what we were trying to do now. I know social media very vacant about the cost of the facility. And frankly, when we went out for the first cost estimate, we were kind of wondering what was going to be as well, but we can't compare Benzonia's building to this building because they house 5 vehicles. We're gonna be housing 100 pieces of equipment in that facility. And Grand Traverse County recently did a satellite garage, much smaller facility than what we're asking for $13 million 2 years ago. So there's economy of scale here, what we base this upon. So we just didn't pull numbers out of thin air saying this is what we're looking. Troy also provides you with an estimate sheets of what we proposal that we based the millage on a proposed cost 2 years ago. Now, if you can take those numbers, and it didn't, there's a few things that are left out of it, like even there's no office for no surveillance equipment mentioned. Doesn't mention rehabilitating the old property. Want to leave the fuel system where it is and raise some of the older portion buildings that are decrepit, but some of the other ones there. So that cost has to be accounted for. And of course, inflation, prices never go up, right? So, you know, that's going to be a factor too we want to do. So the longer we wait, more costly it's going to be.
Couple of questions. Go ahead. Nope, go ahead.
So I don't know much about MTF funding. So is this non-discretionary? I mean, it's not restricted. This is open to anything, even though it's given to the road commission.
Sure.
We are absolutely okay to use this to build a building.
There's an MCL, I wish I would have brought it with, says that part of our MTF or Michigan Transportation Funding can be utilized to pay bond obligations, unlimited bond obligation. Keep in mind, road commission funds are restricted for road related purposes. We can't do parks. We can't do off the right of way. That's the first restriction that's over everything. But a bond repayment are the fund structures you can spend on for bond interest and bonds debt retirement, unlimited for that matter.
I think that's going to be a question asked. Very good. And then, the next door, you know, the proposed site, have you looked at any other site? Is the site, the only site?
It makes sense for a couple of reasons. One,
Okay.
our fuel system is already on property, so we won't have to relocate the fueling station we have there that provides fuel for the school, sheriff's department, other county agencies as well that fuel there. So we don't have to relocate, that stays put. Yes. Acquiring additional land would require purchasing property elsewhere. Our pit property that we have are not meant for that sort of thing. It's more for storage of, you know, dumping logs and different things, stumps, and for graded material and things like that. So no, we haven't looked. The idea was we got the property under our control. It's given to the road commission for purpose for public use. It's the perfect size of what we want to. We'd even be able to provide a bigger storage tank facility for water. The area fire department said they want to pull water from us. Be able to provide Homestead Township that ability. Now, looking over this design, not elaborate, it's the basic needs of what we need, not only for today, but for down the road.
I understand. I'm just trying to ask some questions that I think
Oh,
will
no,
get
no.
asked.
It's a scary subject and we're all kind of going, ooh, that's a lot of money. But again, if the need exists, it wouldn't be others in the voters otherwise if that wasn't.
Mhm.
I can tell you don't need to convince me of the need. I've been through the building more than once and clearly the need is there. Troy, there seems to be some pushback about extending the term out. If you could get a loan that allowed you to repay early, but stretch the terms out in case there's a hiccup, would you be against that?
Talking about a bond for 20 years and we can pay it off in 50.
So like, for instance, I met with rural development the other day and they specifically have loans that they could make to road commissions up to 39 and a half years. And it's Fed fund rates plus some factor, like 1.5%. And there may not be prepayment penalties on that. what I'm looking for is that safety net. If everything goes bad, which we would certainly wouldn't anticipate it, but and the county had to step in at some level, it'd be a more affordable payment. If everything goes as you plan, you can retire the debt in 10 or 15 years anyway.
Yeah, I guess it would be a matter of what kind of percentage they're offering on that. They're a percent higher on 18 million. That's quite a bit of money.
Yeah, we'd have to ask the question, but
Right.
it's a fixed rate. I know that.
Yeah, it's not something opposed to.
Okay. Okay. Because if we were to move down this road, I'd ask that we consider that. And Katie, this question's more for you. So this county doesn't, we have a great bond rating. It's because we really don't have any debt. In fact, in about 3 more years, we'll have no debt. How would it, if something came up in the meantime, and we were to have obligated ourselves to this debt, looking into your crystal ball, would that roadblock us from being able to do something else that was needed?
No, not necessarily. Because we have so little debt and the county's rating is so good, our debt maximum isn't 18,000 or 18 million or 15 million. So we'd be able to bond additional. We just would have to prove the ability to pay for that bond.
Okay. That's all I've got.
The game plan also, stand up what you're saying. We did explore other financing possibilities, but because of being a road commission, we're restricted, especially in our MTF revenue bonds, only for 2 to 3 years. We can't go beyond far farther than that. And we did poll all other road commissions in the state of Michigan who recently built facilities, how they did about doing it. And this is pretty much the way they did finance it themselves in most cases, a couple with a millage if you could. We also have the possibility, and we haven't explored this yet, but say for something catastrophic happens, can we convert the limited tax bonds, which we would have had, to unlimited tax bonds for millage and put it back on the voters to pay the difference? Is that a possibility? I don't know. I haven't asked Bobby that question yet, but that's even a possibility. I'd rather, if we have the money, but we're gonna have a significant amount of buildup in our fund balance, pay the interest on that at least 3 or 4 years. At least on the money, depending how much we do with the money, because remember, we got 2.8 million coming in with a 1.5 obligation. There's no reason why we couldn't build up a fund balance to cover ourselves and pay it off early if we needed to.
Yeah.
Could do that. If
You can, that
my
was,
anticipation would be if we have that kind of money coming in, extra money, say, what the heck, let's just pay the thing down early and be done with it once and for all, as quicker, the sooner we can.
You have to make sure the bond allows it because that's the
Right.
hiccup we had with the Maples is we can't pay it off early.
Knowing up front, we can get
Yeah.
that question to Bobby, because that even possible, we can even do that. That's a factor. We're gonna have the money available to do that. And given we're looking at a Michigan class investment on that amount, we're gonna start with a pretty healthy situation before we even see first bond payment. We have the $2.4 million we have now. We'll have the collection 2026 and probably 2027 as well. 2.8 million, then $1.4 million or $1.8 million next year. So that will be money available because you make a down payment. Wanted to, or leave it as contingency fund to the very end, and then we're done, said and done, and it's all built. We pay down the bond balance based upon that if we need to. Always have a backup plan.
Let me piggyback on Christie's comment a little bit. This influx of money, what about a taxpayer's perspective? Well, you can use it for this, but its intention was to improve our roads and bridges.
Okay.
And so instead of doing that, you're doing this sacrificing the improvement of that. How would you speak to that?
Well, Troy has an excellent report, shows you our present road system, how they're rated. That's our Pacer rating showing where Benzie roads rate, whether's in the area. We're up there, pretty high. So, no idea. These are called
And I
Pacer
think I
ratings.
have
These
it
are ratings
now.
where we go out and rate the roads on our county using Northwest Michigan Council of Governments assistance, where they rate our roads based upon good, fair, or poor. And based upon the charts, our county base versus the other areas, we're significantly higher rating than the other areas would be there. Now, I understand what you're saying. we're not sacrificing one for the other. We're able to augment both is what we're getting at. We can still augment the road system and not seeing any decline, maybe even any more of an improvement in the road system. Taking more asphalt down there. Again, it just depends what the direction we want to go.
On that report, Benzie County, we're roughly at 83% on good and fair roads. Networks Northwest, which is the second graph there, is all our networks that are in this RTF NC. Anybody surrounding us, basically.
Road task force.
And then the middle one is anybody that has to submit an asset management plan, which is agencies over 100 miles, can be townships, cities, villages, and counties. The second to last, there's statewide county roads, and then the last one's MDOT. Currently, we are exceeding in all of those. We are above their benchmark where we need to.
So just to be clear for the person who's looking at the timeline, you went to the voters first and asked them to pay for the $18 million project. That got turned down. And then you put it back on the ballot before you had to secure your position on the ballot, pay to be on the next ballot before you knew about
Correct.
this influx.
I believe we had to have our language in by August,
August.
and we didn't know about till October.
The governor didn't sign it until the first week in October.
I think
And-
that timeline's
And
important.
Beryl, also the number of votes in question, you're talking about a margin of 200 and some people based on the first go around, was it 5,000?
First go around was almost
11,000
11,000
people. So we thought, okay, more education, get it out there, what we're after, what we're trying to do. Let's see how we do. 197 votes next time.
Doubled our percentage because there was half by getting the information out there.
That again, doubled your.
We doubled the percentage. So we lost by 200 votes. Basically, the second time around, there was only 5,000.
Oh, gotcha.
First time around, there was almost 12,000 votes. We lost by, so basically doubled our.
There's two overriding factors that just will not go away. Factor number one, there is a need. That's not gonna go.
Has everybody been through? Has everybody taken the tour?
No. I have not, but I got to see it up close and personal anyway. They had a potential for it.
And factor number two, cost is just the longer you wait, the higher the costs are gonna go up. That's two inevitable, we just cannot, we can control it. So waiting only is gonna increase the cost, the tax burden overall, waiting. Where do we go now? And risk the factor, if the roof does collapse, then what do we do? One of our road commissions out in Union County, for example, had a fire. They lost everything, trucks, equipment, records. And they basically had to borrow trucks from other road agencies, their junkers, to get through the winter till the insurance carrier could come back and replace the trucks. And right now we're waiting, what, Mike, is it 2 years, Mike, on the trucks? 2 years in the trucks to go and build a new truck. If we order today, we're 2 years down the road before we even get.
And we have the same problem with police cars and ambulances.
So we want trying to protect the citizens. We have a facility and actually you have to protect their employees. So obviously we do have a need. And I don't think we're gonna get a better situation financially for us to be able to do this, move forward and do it and satisfy the first two requirements. The need is there, the cost is only gonna increase.
One more, already talked, one up that I hadn't talked about.
That's what we're here for.
Okay, worst case scenario, you have Lindy Bridge go out. Something like that, one of the main bridges. Cause I would think the minimum's gonna be $2-3 million to fix a bridge, period, which could happen.
Yes.
I'd say it wouldn't, but it could. Or hopefully it wouldn't, but how do we factor that in?
Well, gotta remember two things, Gary. Bridge replacement is also on the township responsibility too, if they're in a local road. That's township responsibility as well as road commission. We assume primary road responsibility. That specter won't go away. And right now Troy did a wonderful job of getting funding for a road bridge for two. We have a bridge bundling package that we were able to get funding for. We rebuilt Reynolds Road Bridge with that bundling package. We just did the Hayes Road abutment removals based upon that package. And he just received a commitment for 2.1 million?
There's 1.2 million for Hayes Road, just south of 31, and I think 1.2 million again for Knott's Wig, both replacement.
So
And that's in the township.
the idea.
But Lindy Road is
Yeah.
not in the township. That's
No, Bob
just saying.
who's not
Yeah.
here today explained that if bridge, we may lose a road and have to try to figure it out from there, but if we lose our facility, we lose everything.
Right.
We're gonna lose
Yeah.
response, paramedics are gonna lose response.
You don't have to sell me on the need. You got it. And I want to be able to protect the trucks. Cause there's an asset we don't want to lose. And.
Currently
you know,
27.
Yeah.
$275,000 to put a plow truck, equip it, and
Right.
get on the road to cost. So it's not a little bit of change either.
Although it's not a huge factor, I would anticipate that some of your operating costs would come down too in a new building. Because it's gonna be more efficient building.
Right now, we've got our legacy costs under control at this point. There's no MERS liability. We're under $1 million for our total liability. We're letting the market investment portfolio take us the rest of the way. Of course, it's never officially over till the last person dies. You know, that cost is always going to be there. It's MERS is wonderful at that. And never give you an accurate picture.
I know.
Yeah. Anyway.
Good with the bad.
Anyway, we also close our post-op employment benefits so we close those off, so they're defined. We're over 100% funded on those costs. Legacy wise, we're in really good shape as well.
Just because I've been asked and I kind of know the answer, but the current location where your building's at now, I've been asked, what are you guys gonna do with it? Because people like, well, we could put, so-and-so could put that there. I'm like, you better talk to the road commission. I said, I'm fairly certain they're not gonna move the fuel tanks.
So we've talked about that. We're gonna demolish the current facility, obviously, and then basically open the suggestions on kind of what the community needs and wants. We talked about possibly EMS Station 3, permanent recycling facility, and anything else that
Did have a visit from the Gateway,
Animal control.
Bear Dunes Gateway Association wanted to look for housing at that location. The board told them, yeah, they'd be interested in providing property for that. In that location, you have to upgrade the power and the water. Those are undersized at this point. But those options have been called and been discussed. Question is, where are the other companies going to get the money to do it? We have all these people have these proposals they wanted to do there. Push came to shove as far as funding is concerned, crickets. They couldn't find the funding, so there is some talk about possibly retaining the front of the old state building as a memorial if you want to, or some sort of a build incorporated into something different, but borders open to any and all of that for community use.
But you still want to keep the fuel tanks where they're at.
for the
Correct.
next 15 years.
Yeah.
I won't have to.
Just
back
replace them,
beyond
yeah.
other- They're good for another.
And I realize that how the existing facility's best use would be yet to be determined. But it does make me ask the question, in your project cost, have you considered what the cost of demo in there too?
Yeah, I know. I've looked into that. When we demolished the school next door, roughly 260,000. So I'm assuming that our facility would probably be pretty close to that.
But is that wrapped in the cost of the bond?
The not to exceed 18 million was just for the cost of the facility. General funds to demolish. Wrap that in.
Oh, that $2.4 million had reserved or more when we're said and done. We'll have the ability to do that. That's under the contingencies part of this whole thing.
I know Katie has filled it out, I believe, the RF.
Hmm.
I would like that out as soon as possible to start getting that back. As far as for final design, that way we can get an actual concrete. But I believe. However you want to work that, but basically want to get it out there and get numbers back, because that's what the community said the most, is they wanted concrete numbers, what it's gonna cost, why it's gonna cost that. That's what I'm looking to obtain currently.
Can I ask Katie to explain to me process when it comes to bonding, and some of it you've told me. It has to go through the commissioners, correct?
The county is the bonding entity, yes. I did pull up what Art alluded to with the low interest loans through rural development, the Community Facilities Direct Loan Program of Michigan. So maybe that's an opportunity to explore as well. Maybe that's a better path than bonding. But if we bond, the county's the one who holds the bond. So you have to go through that process technically. Originally, when we talked about it, we talked about, you know, the county obviously having a seat at the table for construction and management and those sorts of things, just so we're keeping ahead on those things. So we don't find ourselves in a pickle for any reason. But the bonding process, because this isn't a millage-based bond, it's a limited bond with the referendum, is we would have to work with the bond attorney to draw up the proper documentation, which this board would approve to initiate the bond process. Then there's a holding period, which gives the community time to do a petition of referendum. If that were to be successful, that puts it on the ballot and the voters could vote up or down if they want to stop the bond in place. If that doesn't happen, then we move through the process of establishing the bond and those sorts of things. I can tell you that Antrim County tried to do it this way and their community was successful in a referendum petition on the ballot, which I found very interesting. But that's pretty uncommon though. Typically the communities don't come out with a petition in this situation, but Antrim just recently that happened to them.
But if we were to, no, go ahead, Gary.
But because they didn't inform the public where the funding was coming from?
I'm not really sure on why or anything. I just know it was the talk around the table about how the community was successful in a petition.
Can you referendum any type of bond?
This bond specifically, because you're proposing to pay for it out of your general dollars, this is the one where they petition to stop it. The other bond is contingent upon the election. Right.
And when you use the expression bond, use that interchangeably with conventional financing?
No, so the Rural Development Community Facilities Direct Loan, that's a true like loan, like almost like, you know, any loan that we would get, a mortgage or what
Right.
have you.
Right.
Whereas the bond is specifically to selling bonds.
Right.
So I'm not using them interchangeably in this situation.
Okay, and would there be a referendum if we were to use conventional financing?
I can't speak intelligently onto that, but I will tell you, when I was in Traverse City Light and Power received a low interest loan through the federal government, and there was no referendum holding period for that situation. Now that's a public utility and it was a city, so it may not be the same, but my experience that one time with the Traverse City Light and Power is no, there was no holding period and opportunity for petition.
Do you have a sense of what kind of fees we'd be talking about if we were to go out for a bond? For 18 million?
I believe it was in
Yeah, they were.
kind of, I think it was around 1,000.
Yeah, something like that.
And I know that we don't want to decide here today, but you're going to continue hearing me push us more towards a loan with rural development if we can get favorable terms on it.
I just sent the link to you, Troy, so you guys could look at it specifically.
Why?
Why? Because there's less upfront cost to put it together. And I'm more comfortable if there's no prepayment penalty. I like having the smaller payment. And if you can take big chunks and pay it off early, that's great. But otherwise, we've got something smaller to fall back on. And there's some contingencies that we'd have to have in there. But if you're willing to have that conversation, I can hook you up with the right people that
Yeah.
Katie can hook you up with him. I met with Jason yesterday.
Yeah,
He's the one that turned me on to this.
yeah, Jason and Val Handy, specifically, based on this 93-page document from the feds, I think in the loan situation too, the road commission could go at it on their own. I don't think you'd need the county for that. But it's 93 pages of digestion, but just in the quick glance, you may be able to pursue that on your own without the county, actually.
Because this is specific to road commissions.
Willing to ask him to come to our December 18th meeting?
We'd probably have to, he would probably be willing to, but he's based out of Travers now. So we can find a way to hook up with him.
Val Handy, who's part of that, actually lives in Benzie County. So I can hopefully connect you
It'd be
with
nice to
Val.
overturn every stone we can before.
He's in Lake Ann.
Again, we just don't want to keep going back and delaying the process, obviously.
Katie has the kind of relationship, you really don't need me involved.
Okay.
I just was meeting with him and asking about different options, not just to the road commission, but he's the one that told me, Katie, to support what you just said. This is specific to the road commission and it may not require the county to backstop it.
I sent you a link to the rural development page, and there's a link to the 93-page CFR
How many year is this?
up to
Say again,
40
please.
How many years?
39 and a half, up to 39 and a half.
years. And it's a low interest loan through the feds.
Can we?
And it's fixed.
That I'm not, I
What's that?
was lightly involved.
Negotiate the link.
Yes,
The length is obviously.
it's up to, so you can negotiate anything in between that. And they do fix the rate at closing.
So we can look into, sure.
Well, and that just may, I mean, in a little, bonding in a little bit of a way almost handcuffs you because you have to come to the county for every step of the way. And if there's a way for you guys to pursue it on your own, it may just be easier for the road commission too.
Either way we go, is there any reason why we couldn't proceed with the actual bid request for the construction,
Fine with it.
final design?
I'm not sure that we can make that.
That you do.
Yeah. I think you need to get
Yes.
You have
a
to
very
come up with a
accurate
better idea
picture for the
what we're doing. I
community.
mean,
Yeah, do you need our blessing to move forward with that?
Well, the reason it's in front of you is if they're going to pursue the bond, then the county should give the blessing on moving through the process. But if they have this opportunity to go through the rural development loan program, then really the county wouldn't have to be involved. But because we don't know, now, there's two options. I would say for their sake, you should give your blessing in case, if we're gonna go through the bond way. It's just more.
Considering we don't
supportive
know
to-
what route they're gonna go for financing. Is there anybody opposed to the road commission moving forward with an RFP for cost?
My objections to this coming into the meeting have been satisfied now. Because quite frankly, guys, I was not supportive of it when I sat down for this discussion. But Joe, your comment about saying over 24 years, you've never seen them cut back in that funding, because that was a real concern of mine. You haven't even seen it flow yet, and we're relying on that.
You have to remember the Benzie County Road Commission historically in the past have had problems even making payroll. We are very financially solvent these days. We have money, we have a funding source, we have a budget, a robust budget, and we feel we're providing the citizens of Benzie County with outstanding road service. We're going to continue to do so regardless. So,
And the fact that it was defeated by a couple of hundred votes, I don't really feel like I'm going against the voter in the community. I mean, it's basically split.
I think it was a startling number, the project, and some people, it was very hard to digest that number, but it cost days. We're in the reality of what you're trying to accomplish, and I think the RFP will put folks' mind at rest that you did your due diligence and are presenting something that is, defendable.
It's tough to compare, costs and stuff. I'm not, other facilities have been built, but if
Yeah.
you look on the bottom of the sheet.
I saw that $160.
$160 a
Yeah.
square foot. Very, very low on the industrial end. Typically you see a minimum of about 200. So we're not going for Taj Mahal and gold plated toilets like everybody on Facebook said.
And for folks who don't have that in front of them, the breakdown was the cost per square foot
Donna.
for the proposed building, and it was like
No,
$160 and 14 cents.
It was on this,
Yeah.
That's right on the back of the first page.
And you're building it out in such a way that it'll serve us well for many, many years, right?
The idea is to at least the next 68 years of our current facility.
Want something you can drive a truck in that you're not gonna hit the rough, so.
That's the big thing.
I know we don't talk a lot about this, but frankly, I'm wondering if there's even a safety issue in the current buildings. Is that gonna have, not relevant to my support, but are the bays gonna be such that they can drive in and work on the vehicle underneath it, so there's a pit?
We're not putting a pit in these. We will have in-floor hoists that'll pick the trucks up.
Okay.
low water table.
Oh,
Water's about 7 feet from the surface by that school, or where the school.
so you're thinking swimming pool?
Possible.
That was actually brought up in the Facebook comment.
Yeah,
BWAC?
somebody did say we.
Swimming pool and a gym.
Hot tub.
So how many of the toilets are gold plated? All of them or?
Just the one.
It depends.
Luxury toilet paper, all of them.
By the way, there was a rumor going around that you were looking at collaborating with the animal shelter. I don't know where that started, but to the best of my knowledge, that's not true, is it?
That
No.
conversation's never been had. No, I didn't hear.
Anybody else hear that?
heard about sharing facilities.
Sounds like a good idea.
The only conversation that Troy and I had was the potential recycling facility. That was the big one that we conversated about because of the changes in the future for Homestead and their fire department.
Yeah, those cycling locations probably gonna be,
Right.
Okay, is there anything else to accomplish with this conversation, or do we feel like we have everything we need?
good.
They feel like they're.
Do you have everything you need?
I'm gonna go forward with the RFP for final design, so. Start with that.
Thank
You
you for
guys
taking the
good?
time to come in.
Fine.
And Katie, you'll get them connected with rural development.
Yep.
Thank you.
Spot.
Yeah.
Thanks, yeah.
Very good.
Joe, appreciate it.
All right, let's move on to our next topic of conversation, which is going to be our discussion regarding the Tax Advisory Committee recommendation for the general operating millage.
Yes, so Randy Rice is here today to be part of this conversation. As you know, he was the chair of the Tax Advisory Committee. At the last Board of Commissioners meeting, we did briefly start this conversation regarding the general operating millage and the Tax Advisory Committee, and the sense was to bring it to a study session and probably be at a couple of study sessions to really talk through what is being proposed. In the packet, I gave you way too much information, but I hope it was helpful information. In the packet, you'll see the original ballot language that was in front of the voters in 1982. And then the resolution as prepared based on the recommendation from the Tax Advisory Committee meeting. And then an array of other information from populations, old information that was shared with the board within the last couple of years related to Benzie County specifically. All of the minutes for the Tax Advisory Committee prepared by Mandy Gray Rainier, as well as millages for various counties within Michigan. I included the millages for the comparable counties that we utilize quite often as comparable counties for various other reasons, so that you could see what the millage breakdown overall is for the counties that are considered our comparables: Clare, Kalkaska, Missaukee, Roscommon, Manistee, Sheboygan, and Otsego. So I included their total operating millages or total millages that are on their L4029s for their county, so that we can demonstrate to the community that we are almost the lowest, second from the lowest of millages. We also include the taxable value for our county as well as other counties around Michigan in there as well. Just again, trying to get the information out to the community as to what things look like. So as a tax advisory committee that met over several meetings, a recommendation was brought forward to the Board of Commissioners to restore or reset the township general operating millages for all the townships in Benzie County back to its 1982 rate of 1.21. Then the recommendation for the county's operating millage was to increase it by 1.2, which would be a 4.4399 millage. The maximum allowed, if you were to reset everything, would be 5.29 for the county, and the recommendation was 4.4399. That's all I'll start with.
But explain on that reset, the expectations were that we would stop assessing a couple of special millages, right?
Yes, so the thought process with the reset up to 4.4399 was that then the drug enforcement or TNT special millage and the SRO millage would go away, and those expenditures would be brought into the general fund because that number would be rising. And that would then create a total increase of 0.9, I believe it was, to the taxpayer overall, because you wouldn't assess those smaller millages.
Randy, I guess I have one question. How did you arrive at a 2-year renewal?
Yeah, come on up, Randy.
Well, the committee come up with a 2-year renewal. Instead of having it indefinite, we felt that the taxpayers would be more comfortable reassess their taxes every 2 years as opposed to just let it go until whenever. So then that way the taxpayer at home would have some feeling of control of their taxes. And if they didn't like it, then of course, the next time it comes for a vote, then they could vote it down. But if it was indefinite, then they would never have a chance to do that.
Well, if I could continue,
Of course.
I'm not, certainly not in favor of indefinite, that's for sure. I have my reservations about a 2-year renewal on it. If they decided in 2 years they didn't want to renew it, we'd have no money to operate on. Because you either are renewing it or you're not.
Correct.
It seems like we're always, and I know you'll hate this expression, but we're always having to sell the need at 2 years.
Well, you have to sell the need even if after 4 years or however many years you decide, still going to have to sell it at the end of that term. And if it's kept fresher in the public's mind, then there's a chance that they may feel more favorable of it if it's just a slight increase because of inflation or expenses. Whereas if you go every 4 years or 8 years, that jump's going to be considerably more in the taxpayer mind as opposed to just every 2 years.
I think in my mind, once we make an adjustment, because taxable value increases, the need to increase should be limited. As long as we're renewing, we find ourselves in this position because we haven't renewed in 40 years.
Correct.
If we do make that small adjustment and then start a new wave of, appropriate amount of funds coming in to fund the services that the community demands, my hope is we don't have to ask for more. We can just consistently renew is the plan in my mind.
Yeah,
Do
because
we know how often our neighbors renew?
I know Manistee, their recent millage was specifically for 2 years. I have not looked at the others that touch us. I just looked at Manistee's and theirs is every 2.
You're looking at me.
Thank you very much.
Because
Get what you can, Randy.
That's right.
Run.
what we
Christie,
say-
you have the floor.
Sorry. I didn't even notice that it was such a small amount, 2 years. I breezed right over that. So when I think of millages, I'm usually thinking of, 10 years or 8, something around that part. And maybe I'm thinking of different things because I'm thinking of other millages probably than just the general fund. And I can't help but think with our millage fatigue, 2 years does seem like that's going to come up to the voter a lot. And the voter, I don't know. If I'm Joe Q voter, am I going to be like, oh my gosh, boy, they're just asking for so much. I'm constantly having to, I'm constantly having this millage come up at me. So I don't know. I thank you for saying that because I didn't even notice the 2 years. So that means almost every election, right? Because we basically do things 2 years at a time, right? So
Yep.
basically every election, we're going to have a millage on there.
State and federal elections are every 2 years. They're
Yes.
Federal or they alternate back and forth.
Yeah. If you read the resolution, the language is 27, 28 inclusive. So what that would mean is we'd go out for 26. It's going to approve for 27, 28 inclusive. So it's approving the levy for 2027 and 2028. In 28, you'd go out for the election again of inclusive of 29 and however forward. And so the last year of the levy, we typically go back out and include the final year as inclusive in the levy. So when we did this just a couple of years ago to remove the indefinite, the language was 2026 inclusive. So whatever we do next year isn't going to go into effect until the 2027 tax year.
On average, how long are our special millages out for, do you know?
So they're kind of all over the board. My first time here in Benzie County, seemed to be a little shorter. And their expiration dates were in years of which there was no elections. And so it was, we either go out for a new millage a bit early, or we'd have to pay for special elections. This last time when we did the various millages, we spaced them out a little longer, 4, 5, 7 years. And we did that so that one, there was a little longevity to the millages, but then two, we spaced them out so there wasn't 5 millage requests on one ballot. There was 1 or 2 on all the ballots.
And do I remember right that there may be some legislation pending that says county operating millages have to go on when state and federal millages or elections are taking place?
The only thing I've seen out there is that they're looking to make them only in November.
So
So
local
we get one
levies.
bite at this.
I don't think that's moved very far, but that is one of them that's out there.
Mhm. It is interesting.
Can I go a different route? You guys know where I stand. When you guys were doing this, we'll go to the townships. 1.21 is the increase where they were originally, correct?
Yes, that's the original.
And you have townships that have huge fund balances. And some
townships that
townships that don't have anything, and I'm going, there's no equity here. How do you get equity when you have, and it always sticks to me is one of ours is Lake.
In
that
one
you
of
can
them.
have, you can
And
have,
yours.
you can, what?
One of yours has a pretty big fund balance too, I think.
One of my,
I think so.
Weldon, maybe?
I don't remember.
It's because of Crystal Mountain. Whatever, how do we equalize this so the taxpayers are looking at this? My township in Platt has nothing going. And these guys have a park and they want to do this and they want to do that. They're buying a new fire truck, on and on and on. I just would like to see equity somehow throughout the county.
So we talked about that, and statutorily, we are not allowed to put in place a different levy for every township. It's one number or no numbers. And even though every township has rolled back differently, and so technically they all would see a different increase if you went to 1.21, we cannot adopt ballot language that's individual by township. It's one number for all. It's up to the township to establish their levy. And so that's out of our hands, unfortunately. We cannot dictate what the township levies. And of all of our townships, only 2 are not levying the max.
I would like it front and center what their fund balances are
Yeah.
on some of these.
Chris-
Because if
Chris
you're in those
Lake
townships and you're not showing accountability to your taxpayers, I got a problem with you.
Yeah, there's only
Anyway.
there's only 2 townships who are not levying the max.
Well, I can tell you exactly where they're at. I don't know if anybody wants to hear it. Elmira is at 0.67, Benzonia is at 0.74, Lane's at 0.7, Colfax is at 0.78, Crystal Lake is at 0.65, Gilmore's at 0.77, Homestead is 0.82, Inland is 0.71, Joyfield is 0.95, Lake is 0.52, Platt is 0.78, and Weldon is 0.71.
Is that 23 or 24 numbers?
I don't think you have the right number
They're
because
25
went to
rates.
That's at the 25.
This is 25.
Is that what the townships are electing
Levy.
to?
It's how far they've rolled back.
It should have,
What they're allowed to levy.
yeah, but are they levying it? Not all of them are levying that. That's what they would be allowed to.
They're all
they all
levying
doing it
their
the
max
40,
allowable.
You
They're
told
all,
me there was 2 that.
there's 2. It's Crystal Lake
And Blaine.
Township and Blaine are the only 2 not levying their max.
You have 2 groups that are accountable.
And maybe that's changed with the recent L4029s that was based
Yeah, I
on,
don't know either.
you know, those were just done at the township level. So I don't know as of this summer, but before this summer's L4029 approvals, everyone but those 2 were levying their max potential.
Gary, I've got to ask because I understand what your concern is, but where is our role with the township? They have their own elected officials.
Mhm.
Their voters vote for their millages themselves. At what point does it give us the right as county commissioners to wade into their
I'm not
world?
saying it gives us the right. You're asking me, the taxpayer, to increase my taxes. And I don't see I don't see as well as you guys do the need and, you know, that we're gonna base stuff on possibilities into the future. I mean, I see some of the things that are coming through the county. Some of them scare the hell out of me. BSNA is one of them.
Hmm.
And some of these things, but we have no leverage to fight back with. All they do is they look at this as a money pit. We just keep taking the money out. Pretty soon there won't be any money there. And that's,
Are you talking about the county's operating
I'm
millage?
talking about all of them.
Well, let me ask, do you doubt that there's a need to increase the millage rate for the county?
I think there's ways around it. I don't know if I know exactly how to get around it, but I think there's options. I don't want to be the Roscommon. They threw everything out the door and everything got shut down. What is there? Sheriff and an undersheriff and nobody else is driving. I'm just saying.
Oh, no, that's
I
a
don't
different
want,
county.
that's a different one. Okay.
Roscommon's general operating failed and they closed down non-statutory offices. And then was it Claire or Isabella that the sheriff's Isabella,
I
where they
don't
cut
want to
road
get to
patrol.
that point. And, you know, I just have a hard time, and I know Randy does too, about increasing anybody's taxes. I don't want people losing their homes and those kind of things. And I know we're always happy when we don't have to repossess a piece of property, but people work their whole lives for property. I just feel there ought to be a better system, and I don't know if, I know I'm probably just blowing smoke, but
You're not.
What do you
I
think
think
about it?
you're stating the position of a lot of folks. I need to hear what those other options are.
mhm.
Because we do have a responsibility to provide services to a certain level. And without the funds to do that, I mean, you said that there are other ways. And I don't want to put you on the spot right now, but I think at another meeting we need to know what those are. Because if there were an alternative, I think everybody would be open to listening to it.
Well, we'd have to look at them. You know, I mean, I don't like doing this, but Beulah, some of the things they've done over the years. And one of the main things that they did ended up costing the county a lot of money. We normally would not have done because of, I'm gonna call it incompetence. I don't know what happened. I don't know how they, you know, over a long span of time, they neglected stuff, didn't take care of stuff. And now we're in a position where there's a huge amount of money they have to come up with, and that's dumped on all the residents in the village. I don't want to point the finger because most of the time you're going to have a group that did this that is not around anymore. And it falls on the next group to take care of it. I don't want to do that here either, but I would also like to know this increase, what's it going to cost the average taxpayer, not per parcel. Not just, okay, it cost you $20 on every 1 mil or whatever, because it's close to a mil.
Well, but it's not realistic for me to calculate every individual taxpayer's increase.
No, but
But what you would do is, like, you said the increase was like 0.92 mils.
Yeah, it's just over 0.9.
This, okay,
So
And
that's
you
90 cents for every $1,000 of taxable value. We could create a calculator, place on our website so that folks could put in their numbers and see what their tax increase. We can give them the mathematical equation to do it. It's just not realistic for us to provide that to everybody.
because every year you're gonna get the cost of living adjustment that they throw in there. It's been high for the last couple of years, what, 5%?
We're looking at another rollback. We had a rollback this year and there'll be another rollback next year as well, based on how the numbers are trending. So it won't
Even
be a
with the
factor of one.
rollbacks, Katie, you have got increased revenue.
That is
Not
correct.
a lot,
I
but
know.
you have increased revenue.
Well, so
Which
that's
if you're working for a living, sometimes that's about all you ever get.
and that's the trouble is, yes, we may be getting an increased amount of revenue, but the increase we're getting is not keeping up with inflation. So while we're limited to 5 or less and inflation is 9%, we're expected to only take 3% additional. However, we have to pay 9% out. That's where the difference is coming in, is we may be getting more, but the cost of doing business is rising significantly more than what we're getting in.
But the cost to the people working for a living, they're paying the inflation rate,
Right.
and that burden just keeps piling up on them.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to see out on the front steps being auctioned off either. So
Yeah.
anyway, I'm done.
Well, the great
you-
thing is we haven't had any foreclosures. And Kelly can speak to that. There may be some coming next year, but we didn't have any last year.
I can,
You know,
Speak,
Gary,
there's-
for me, your concerns are legitimate. And as a conservative, I can tell you, I'd prefer to reduce taxes than increase them. But you talked about, I'll use the expression, kicking the can down the road by future leadership groups. That's how we got here today. It's because
I know.
what we've been working on for 7 years, well, since 2017, is correcting that. And we've been taking it in baby steps. We use the taxation advisory committee to tell us, are we exaggerating what our needs are, or are there legitimate needs? And they came back to us, and I think it was a relatively conservative group you had, and they came back and said, yeah, you have a need, but this is what that need is. Is that a fair way to say it, Randy?
I would think so, yeah.
I
And-
watched a lot of their stuff, so
And I know you,
I
I
know
know
how
you
hard
did.
At this. And I know how difficult this is, and I appreciate what they've done. It's just that I'm gonna be one of them guys that's never gonna change when it comes to people trying to hang on to their property and stuff, so.
You know, the roadblock seems to be what the townships will be allowed to do if this were to pass. And we just have zero control over that. The only people that have control over it is the voter within that district.
And most of the township, I don't know what you call them, management end of it. Once they're in, they never get out. So, just saying,
That's a different discussion, but
yeah, I don't know how you hold them accountable.
It's the voters' job to do that.
It doesn't always fly either, so, but yeah, it is.
If I may, there's legislation that has been introduced to amend the 1974 law that allows counties and cities to add a tax to transient hotels, motels, Airbnbs and stuff. There's been an amendment to change that. Is it going to go any further than the committee? And then it has to go to the full House, the Senate, and the governor. And from my 9th grade civics, I think I remember that all legislation that's not approved by the end of the term has to start over again in the state. So this be in November, end of November. I don't think it's going to go any further, but it doesn't say next year that they're not going to. And the change would allow counties and townships to have that. It's not, because right now it's based on population density. And with this new legislation that could but not pass, it would allow all counties and authorities in that area for people to decide if they want to levy a hotel tax. But that's an if.
Mm-hmm.
quite frankly, if we had that as a tool, this would be a completely different discussion. Because part of our cost of doing business is about our out-of-town visitors.
Yeah.
Ironically enough, or maybe it's not ironic, one of the biggest opponents to that is the Convention and Visitors Bureaus,
Yeah.
who are already collecting 5%.
Right.
And it really affects public safety, just like you said. I mean, that's a huge cost to us, a huge burden.
Yeah, I mean, there's more runs during the tourist season, whether it be law enforcement or ambulances or whatever it might be. Even things like recycling. I mean, all of that cost of doing business goes up. And what complicates this discussion even more, which we've been talking about for many years, is the cost. They tell me what the inflationary rate is. I'm not bought off on it because the cost of doing business has far outpaced the inflation. You know, when I think of every year they come to us about insurance costs, you know, starting out at 30%, and then we whittle it down to 7 or 8. And that's an insurance cost across the board. It just, we're not keeping up with it is our problem. And The services that we're delivering today may look quite different 5 years from now. We don't even know what it looks like. But the demand is only going to increase. There's not a pullback of services citizens want. There's an increase of it. How do I pay for it?
How do they pay for it? What's-
Well, I'm a taxpayer, I
I
guess.
think one of the
Yeah.
charts that impacted me the most was seeing the general operating millage that the 82 counties pull, and we are third from the bottom.
Mhm.
The move that's being suggested by the tax allocation committee, if I'm mathing correctly, would move us about to the 15th position, 15th or 16th out of 82 counties. To me, that is not taking advantage. It's an adjustment that moves us in the right direction for something that's not been addressed in 40 years, less than 1 mil. I don't want to pay more taxes either, Gary. I don't. But at the end of the day, we see the work that this building does, that the building up hill does. I don't want to come to the budgeting table and have to tell people we don't have enough money to support their jobs. You know, I mean, that's my biggest fear. I don't want to have to cut.
Well, we
people.
may-
I want people to stay in their houses, but I don't want to have to cut people either. So there has to be some sort of middle ground where we address this to a degree that's palatable for most of the people.
To interject, what I like about what the taxation board did, the advisory board, is they identified a percentage that really is quite modest, in my opinion. You're talking about less than 1 mil, but at the same time said, how can we start bundling some of this too? Because that's been a long discussion. There's people in the community would like to see us bundle even more. But as your group cited, we're going to have to gain the confidence of the voter that we're not going to assess those before they roll off. That will bring them back, that will bring them to zero. My biggest concern, Randy, and I'm trying to wrap my head around your comments, is this 2 years. It just, I feel like we're always going to be dealing with this.
But with the 2 years, would it be a potential need for an increase of the millage initially instead of the 0.9 net increase? Are we going to have to ask for, 1.2 because we're going to go to 4 years? Because the future is going to be more expensive.
Well, that actually would be a different referendum. It's because at best, I would see us just asking to bring it back to that 0.92 mils additional.
Renewal.
Just a flat renewal. I'm not wanting the option to increase it. I'm wanting the option to keep resetting it. Because that's what got us here today, because we never got the chance to reset it.
Kelly Long, County Treasurer. I'm under the impression every 2 years, it gives us the option to keep it open to just, we don't have to reset it back to that, as we roll back. So 2 years from now, let's say we don't need any more money. Let's just keep it as is, but it's still open so we can try again in 2 years. Isn't that what that does for us by keeping it open?
Yeah, every
It
2
gives us
years
that-
we have to go back out.
Okay, so the tax advisory committee could come back in 2 years and say, we've decided we're going to leave it right where it's at. We don't want to go back and get any more money, but we want to leave it open just in case we do need to.
Still have to vote on it every 2 years.
Yeah, we'd have to vote on it.
Kelly,
So yeah, we could lose. We could still lose
Right.
coming up. We're taking that risk.
this is a scenario though. So let's say 2 years down the road, we're looking for a renewal, but we're only renewing it at its present rate.
Correct.
2 years later, we
Yep.
put it back in the ballot. We can only reset it at the most recent rate, not the first one that was voted in.
Correct.
So if there was additional need, I can never catch up.
Which supports the idea of renewals
Right.
and chunks after so many years.
Right. Right.
Ultimately, it's up to the
But it
board,
keeps it-
but it's voted.
Right.
Well, this is just our recommendation. You don't have to take it. You can do.
Yeah, you can send it,
increase
you
the
can
way
send
you
it back.
want. It's up to you folks.
Well, they'd send it back to us.
Well, I'm,
Yeah, that's what.
but
it
I
would be.
mean, they can
Then
say,
it
no,
would
we
work.
want it different,
Right.
Oh, but that was what we come up, with for 2 years.
Randy, this is how I process stuff, that's all. Because what's gonna happen is the next couple of days, I'll be thinking about it, trying to understand your input, and then kind of putting all that information together. I don't know if it's the right thing or yet or not. My immediate reaction is what I'm sharing with you. But quite frankly, 48 hours from now, I may see the light, I don't know.
That's why it's a study session, to have these
Right.
conversations, so.
Well, one other thing that's stuck in me, there's been a lot of property sales in this community in the last couple of years, and the property's astronomical cost.
Mhm.
Can you show me where that money's going? Because that tax increase, 10-acre parcel used to sell for $8,000 to $10,000. Now it's 150. Where can you show me how we're not increasing our basis?
Assessing is based on a market study. It's not based on what you paid for that property. So even if you paid 150,000 for that property and the assessor says it's only worth 100,000, we're only collecting taxes
That's
based
not
on
gonna
that.
happen either, so.
Well, it does. It
It
happens
does.
out there. I see it every other day. Sometimes people, and some people pay more.
So that's a misconception. Folks who thinks when a house sells
Mhm.
and the taxes become uncapped, that it
Yep.
resets to the sale price. That's
Not
not.
Does
what we-
not. No,
Okay.
no, not
It-
always.
it-
No,
It doesn't.
Uncaps to an assessor's level.
correct. Whatever the
Okay.
assessor's market study is. So you purchased a house for 300,000. That doesn't mean your SCV is 150,000. It could have been 75,000. And this person just, when we had the huge jump in houses there a few years back, people were paying way more than what they were worth. And they weren't paying that much in taxes. Now, if this was their starter home and they're ready to move on to a bigger home, because all of a sudden I just had 3 kids in the last 8 years and I need a bigger home, and they purchased that home for more than what it was worth, they're not going to unload that home.
I'll argue with this one because I've known people that have had property that they uncapped.
Yep.
And had been basically forever on their, whatever you call it. Where you're, like the farm, that
Mhm.
kind of stuff. And all of a sudden it's sold, there had to be an increase for the county. There had to be an increase, even if they didn't go up to what the market.
Well, of
was.
course, it uncapped. And
Right,
of course, there was an increase, but we still
this
have the
case, it
rollbacks
almost
that come into
tripled the-
effect.
taxes on.
Our interest is less than 5% now. It's only at 3. You guys got the letter from Katie in regards to what's happening out there with the class action lawsuit as well. If that goes through, guys, we're not going to have to worry about people losing their property because who's going to pay their taxes?
County
Okay.
has to give them fair market value.
We have to give them fair market
I mean,
value
the
for their
numbers
homes.
that
We're
they-
not going to foreclose on anybody.
Yeah.
So people could go without paying their taxes for years if that happens.
Right. I understand. but
There's all kinds of things going on out there.
We
Ask
wanna
My
make
Tax
this
is making a huge
that easy,
turnaround.
Relatively affordable for people that own property and be able to keep their property.
Correct.
That's where I want to go with this. I think probably what you're asking is reasonable. Some communities or entities in this county that, as far as I'm concerned, they're taking in more than they should. And I don't know. how to fix it.
Unfortunately, for the way we wanted to go, we had to go with the way the township goes. Otherwise, we could go back to the board or back to the tax advisory board and start over again and come up with, we had 3 different choices. Maybe we go with the second choice we wanted.
Did have one more.
I don't know.
Can't quit. So when it goes on the ballot, what's the wording on the ballot language? An up to amount?
So that language is in your packet right now.
I never could find.
Shall separate tax limitations be established? It
What
says,
page is that, Katie?
if you're looking at the PDF on the website, it's page 11. And so the language in there says indefinite, so we would add in the 2 years, but the language would be, shall the separate tax limitation be established for a period of 26, 27 inclusive, or until altered by the voters of the county for the county of Benzie and the townships and intermediate school districts within the county, the aggregate of which shall not exceed 5.8327 in mills as follows, and then it breaks it down, and then it's yes or no.
Yeah, that's what you had before, but you told me before that it had to be in the ballot language what the maximum could be, which was like 9 point something if you tied everything together. That won't be on the ballot?
No, so that's because we're not choosing to go with the overall maximum allowed under the law and under our original 1982 numbers. This is the committee is saying we want to set the maximum to 5.8327.
So that's not an up to amount. It's just, this is where we're going.
Well, that's up to, so that's the maximum would be 5.8327 across the county. And the up to allowed for the county would be 4.4399, 1.21 for the townships.
We would
So-
decide what to levy there.
Yep.
Townships would decide what to levy on their end.
The original max potential for all would be nine mils. But the committee is saying, we don't want to do that. We want to say the top dollar, we want to say the top number's 5.8 is what the committee is saying. And so that's why we also included the original ballot language from 1982. So you can see this was what was approved and we only want a portion of that. While it's an increase, it's still much lower than the original.
Yeah, the difference though, is that in the meantime, they've added a lot of special millages. So it's the presentation, it should look different. By the way, that was new information for me when you said if somebody sells their property at a premium, the tax that's being assessed on that isn't necessarily the sales price.
Correct.
Okay. And Gary, are you, I think where you're trying to get to is hard dollars. So how much did we collect in hard dollars last year? How much are we going to collect this year? What's the difference? You're looking at the dollars we can actually spend, right?
Even with Headley, we were collecting somewhere around $100,000 more a year in tax revenue.
I can tell
little
you.
more.
Hold on.
And so it's not a zero sum balance. Because every time I listen to people talk about this, and I'm not trying to hammer anybody, well, we got shorted. No, you didn't get shorted. You got an increase.
So in
I've had jobs where I never got an increase in a year.
So for the 24 fiscal year, we collected about 5.9 million in taxes. For the 25 fiscal year, we collected just over 6 million. And for the 26 fiscal year, we're projected to collect 6.17 million.
So about 100,000, as he said.
Yeah.
We're in that area.
But then we give raises and we have BSNA fees and we have insurance increases.
BSNA, I'd
You
like
know,
to have
go
them
on
right
and on
here.
and on. That's not even addressing, the needs, the
I
shortfalls.
understand.
Yeah.
How many of these things,
Yeah.
it's like we don't have any control over them, but we're the ones that are buying their product.
And
Well,
I
and we're-
misspoke earlier when I said that would put us on the 15th. So all of these millages, that's their ISDs included too. So we would go from the 3.2 or the 3.3 up to 5.8, right? So that would put us closer to in the top 15 or 20.
Which sheet?
I'm
are
on
you-
page 26,
He's
looking
going by
at
the total down there.
2024 operating millage rates, just seeing.
So those are their,
well,
yeah, those on there are their general operating
So
millages.
that's without their townships or their ISD.
That's just the
Okay, 'cause I
county
was just
general
at
ops.
the
Yeah.
0.8. Okay.
No, so this shows that we were at 3.2960. And if we're going up the 1.2, putting us at 4.43.
Okay, so
So
that would put
that's
us in
gonna
the
put us up around Mackinac, Charlevoix, which is further than 16 from the top.
Mackinac, Charlotte.
It's on the same page as where we're at now. It moves us up 15-ish, 15,
Okay,
20
yeah,
more.
Okay, so I was closer.
Yeah,
My
so you're-
statement then, okay.
Yeah.
And we should be proud of the fact we're on the bottom. We're not charging people any more than we have to.
But that's misleading, Gary.
Is it mine?
Say that again, Tim?
It's
I
misleading
took a show.
because these other counties may or may not have the special millage.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah.
And their
that's
taxable
difficult.
value, Livingston County, if I looked right, is 11 billion and yeah, 11 billion and we're at 1 billion. So,
Right.
and I understand there's a size discrepancy, but
Mhm.
We're
I
out
think it was Mr.
1.7
Olson, on your
billion.
committee was talking about, you know, the size of the school and the millage and what it generates can be hugely different with the
Correct.
different sizes of the.
Yeah, so we're at, as of 24, we were 1.7 billion taxable value. We're now at 1.9 billion of taxable value. But yeah, you look at some of these others, Allegan, 6.9 billion, Barry, 3 billion, Bay, 3.6 billion, Berrien, 10.2 billion. So the taxable value has a lot to do with it as well.
Absolutely.
And not all the counties provide
Or
services provide, or they provide services that don't. For example, not very many counties provide EMS services.
Claire has it, Kalkaska, Misaki, Roscommon, and Manistee all have a millage dedicated to EMS and dispatch, it shows.
I'd be curious, and I'm not asking you to look it up, but you know, like transportation millages and
Mhm.
these animal control. You know, dude, because those are not mandated services.
So they're in your packet as well. If I'm just looking at our comparable counties, I think that's important to look at our comparable counties and not look at Kent and Allegan and Barry.
Right.
So when you're looking at our comparable counties, Clare, Kalkaska,
Page 23.
Misaki, yep, 23, Roscommon, Manistee, Sheboygan, and Otsego.
Right.
They all have an ambulance or EMS/central dispatch. So they all have that. A few of them.
EMS central dispatch, is that medical or dispatch
We-
or both?
We'd have to ask them on that. But there are a couple with animal shelter, animal control. We're not the only one on that. It also notates the bus. So you'll see here, Claire has transit bus, Kalkaska has transit bus. They also, some of them have medical care facilities like us as well. So you can see that there. Libraries are on there.
In each one of these counties, their millage rate would generate different amounts of money, correct?
Based on their taxable values, that's
Yeah.
correct. Yep.
So it could be a lot of difference.
Well, but these are our comparables, so they really shouldn't be widely different. They should be much closer.
I'm surprised only one other county offers collection millage for veterans, Roscommon.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I know that the collection goes up by $100,000, but we can eat that up just in the cost of health insurance.
Mm-hmm.
No, the 2% raises we gave.
Well, that too.
Just saying. I understand. It's just that.
You're looking out for the taxpayer, and
Trying to.
there's not one of us sitting here that doesn't appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. So where do we want to go with this conversation? I don't think we're going to make a decision today.
Mm.
Should we have this back on our study for December? We do have a study session in December, right?
Yep.
I'd like to continue conversation about the term.
Okay.
What other information would you like for us to provide you? Is there any other information that you think would be helpful in all of this? I'm just wondering, I mean, I can share a link with you that has 500 plus pages of information for counties across the state if you really want it. Also, which I had hoped was included in the packet, but I think it missed it, was Corey put together a really nice presentation regarding the dispatch needs. And that talks about the capital planning of dispatch as well, which I think keeps falling off this radar, but it was heavily talked about at the advisory committee. Because, you know, Corey had leaned towards doing a special millage for dispatch to address their needs separately, but the conversation led to, well, that would also be part of this general operating increase, is to account for the dispatch needs as well. And that presentation goes and outlines the needs of that department as well.
I think one thing that we haven't put succinctly down is the encapsulation of the need. I'm sure the committee talked about it quite a bit. You heard from Parks and Rec people, you heard from EMS. We know the general employee costs that raise every year. We know about health insurance, but to have a general list in one spot of the things that without a crystal ball we can foresee that we need to address would be helpful to start looking at, because when we move forward with this, the immediate thing following is going to be our information campaign. And so as we're coming close to a decision, I think we need to be prepared to pivot and go right into
The
how are we
needs.
going to help the public understand why we're asking for what we're asking for.
Mhm.
That's my 2 cents. Anybody else?
Well, a couple of things that I would like, in addition to what you're talking about, is beating a dead horse here, but I'd like to know what the average terms are for communities our size. And would we be better off, even though it was recommended by the committee, to not try to absorb those 2 special millages and decrease the request by a like amount? So we'd never be asking for more than 0.92.
Okay.
But then come ballot time, wouldn't there be more choices on the ballot for a voter? They'd have voter fatigue. You're looking at hypothetically 16 different things as opposed to 7.
I'm with you
You're gonna
100%.
get tired. You're gonna get tired of, deciding or voting for the same thing over and over.
Randy, I was the one that introduced the language of millage fatigue a few years ago. I get
It
it.
works great today too.
Yeah, it sure does. In fact, I noticed it's embraced by a lot of elected officials, but
People are stealing.
I'm not saying that's the right thing to do. I'm trying to think about it from an educational, informational perspective.
Mhm.
If I'm asking for less, what's the impact emotionally for the voter?
Right.
Because, man, we overwhelmingly support the bus and animal control, and I'm sure some others.
Senior resources.
Senior resources, those things. Nobody cares about counties operating.
Right.
Well, and to add to this okay. To add to this conversation too, you want to keep in mind that the TNT millage or drug enforcement millage expires after this winter tax levy. So if you're going to pursue that millage, it has to be next year as well.
Right.
And the jail levies through next year. So we would also have the jail millage on the ballot next year.
For me, when I look at the special millages, if we were to wrap them in, some of those special millages have pretty significant
Fund balances?
fund balances, but we can't use that to operate the county with.
Correct.
That's a little bit frustrating. When you know that they're plenty healthy, and I don't even know if there's a planned use of those funds, but yet we're struggling to pay for the general operating costs.
Mhm.
That's another reason why I'd love to wrap all 12 of them in and then let the commissioners make the decision on where the money's best spent. I'm not convinced that the public has that kind of confidence in us.
I don't either, because I heard that a lot of people like having their choices of what they want to vote for
I've heard that too.
versus, so I hear the exact opposite of voter fatigue. It's like, I want those choices. You
Do
mean,
you think that
I've heard
position
both.
would change though if they knew what the fund balances were in some of these? I mean, if you're asking for more than, there's something to be said about living within your means. And if you're asking for more when you have enough, it's offensive.
right,
Is to me.
I don't have that answer.
And Tim, to your comment, I've heard almost equally both sides of
Yeah,
that
me too.
discussion.
I'm not saying I heard one more than the other. I've heard them both.
Oh, yeah.
And you can tell just by the way people vote. You can see the ballots that pass and what they vote for.
Well, you can see the
You're going-
percentage
To
change.
that point, it's what they're passionate about. We want to take care of our elderly. We want to take care of our pets. But the voter doesn't have the knowledge of, and I'm not saying either one, I'm not trying to call out specific ones, but when you're voting for this, you don't know what their fund balance is. You
No.
don't know, it just comes up again. And so it's a little bit unfair.
I don't know how you get that information.
Right,
It's-
right.
I don't mind calling them out at all. When I think about the Benzie Transportation Authority, who doubled their millage and each year end with a surplus before they even started collecting the new money. No, I don't. Honestly, the voters don't really know what they're approving. I understand that the Transportation Authority is had come in with a surplus of about $350,000 this past fiscal year, and that's before the additional mills are assessed.
They haven't even started that after the first of the year.
So I don't know how you educate the voter. I just,
People love their animals, people love the seniors, and they want to support EMS.
Let's put the animal control in the buses.
Veterans.
Veterans too.
Well, I think there's
Yeah,
two.
and vet-
Driven by EMS.
EMS is an easy one.
Yeah.
If I pick up the phone and gotta have you over there, I want you there.
All right, folks, have we talked this out pretty good today? And
So for my,
Appreciate it.
so for my purposes, dispatch presentation, a needs list, average terms of millages for other counties. To give you additional info.
I think,
And you were talking about EMS. I heard from quite a few people that they feel that they're double dipping in the sense that the county pays for, we pay for them to be there, ready to serve us. But if we get in their ambulance, they're going to charge the insurance company. So now, if that's the system, that's the system, but a lot of people don't think that's fair. Because now they're getting or not twice as much, but they're getting more money.
What we get back
I heard
from
that.
insurance charges is about, I could actually pull it up. We would have to increase our
Jen,
millage
I think you might have
significantly.
dropped something.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, that was up here. That was,
Um,
but it,
Put that in context, because these are things that are near and dear to my heart, because I do fire. You pay this millage your whole life and you never use the service, right? Your neighbor calls it every single day. So basically, you're paying for the service for your neighbor.
Mhm.
I view it more as the millage money is getting that agency ready to respond. And then the fees that they charge would be their cost to actually go out on them. Does that make sense?
Oh, it makes perfect sense, logically, but when you're a taxpayer and you see that, why am I paying for this? And then if I have to use it, they're gonna get money from my insurance company.
well, if you're,
Even though that's the way it is, the taxpayers,
Well, yeah,
my
the
opinion, think
perception is a wonderful.
perception, that's
Yeah.
what it is,
Yeah. Well, I agree 100%.
so there are some larger townships and neighboring counties that collect the fee large enough to pay the whole kit and caboodle and there's no insurance involved. For our purposes, for what we're actually getting from insurance versus what we're taking in for taxes, we would have to add at least 0.5 up to 1 more mill onto the millage in order to do that.
Sure, yeah. Oh, there would be definitely a cost increase for
Yeah.
the taxpayer. I'm not saying that it wouldn't happen, but just the perspective of John Q. Public, when they look at their taxes and they hear that the ambulance charged this person $7,000 to run them to Munson, they just don't think that's fair. That's all.
So then throw that into, so ambulances, they respond to car accidents and you have 3 cars involved that are all from out of area. And you won't charge anybody for that stuff, then you're
Right.
paying for that ambulance service.
Right,
Where a lot of counties don't have an EMS millage,
right.
so you're gonna get charged if
I'm
people
not saying
get
I'm
in an
not,
accident
I'm
there.
not saying I'm not in favor. This is just what people have told me and their
Yeah.
opinions, and I'm nowhere near,
Our voice.
Yeah.
Please be our
Yeah.
voice to say that what we charge for our EMS is quite low in the grand scheme of it.
right?
And so we can't afford to not go to the insurance because otherwise we couldn't sustain the service that we're providing. Because while the millage brings in 1.7 million, we're only projected to receive about 800,000 of ambulance fees.
Sure,
So
yeah.
By the way, Randy, I get phone calls at home about that too.
Oh, do you?
Usually it's somebody that just got billed.
Sure.
yeah,
Oh, and I do too as a fire chief.
Yeah,
But I don't bill anybody for my fire department.
right,
It's, I've had a neighboring fire department bill one of my people
sure,
in my jurisdiction, which they can't do.
right.
all right, folks, are we good on this conversation for this time? Thank you for being here, Randy.
Thank
Really
you.
appreciate your input.
Sure do.
We have one more topic to discuss. Does anybody want to break or do we want to push through?
Let's push through.
Let's put through, 'cause I'm kind of in a hurry.
Okay,
Wants me to-
so our last topic is appoint Betsy Lighthouse commitment. We talked a little bit this morning about 3 commissioners met with Grant, I want to say his last name. right? Porteous. Yeah, and had a very candid discussion. Art, do you want to take this topic away?
Well, sure. The same conversation we had this morning.
Yeah.
What we shared with him after we learned more information is that, at least from my perspective, I'm not willing to go out there and borrow money for them in any form or shape because I have no confidence that they can repay it. I also pointed out to Grant, who, by the way, was great to converse with, not combative at all. But they really haven't done as much fundraising as they say they have. 5.2, they've got 6.6 million. 5.2 million came from the state. They had $1 million contributor. So that means they basically raised about $600,000 out of a $9 million bill.
Did we not put COVID money in?
250,000.
50 of ARPA dollars.
Thanks for reminding me of that. So,
Crystal, didn't other townships put in money to that too? Or am I thinking something else?
well, no, Lake Township put in another 100.
Yeah.
You're right, Tim.
So, and I think the 6.6 is a good number. And I'm not trying to disrespect anybody when I say this, but if I don't have the confidence even that they can fundraise to retire the debt at this moment. So the question is going to be, do we want to even own the lighthouse, or should we go back to Bureau of Land Management and tell them we're thinking about abandoning it? What's our options?
Not against doing that. I can't see how we can afford it.
I've talked to other county commissioners that own lighthouses, and it's just a money pit.
Putting in a swimming pool at the house.
We were told in the last couple of meetings, and I'm just repeating what Rhonda shared with us this morning, is that they had about $150,000 net cash flow. That was an anomaly. They had 1 year where they were in negative, 1 year where they can't even explain where the money came from because there was such a jump in revenue.
That was our donation.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That was our donation. And as we talked about this morning, and I know the friends are not going to be happy to hear that I've said this, but this is not our high priority for this county.
So as a reminder, I did send an email to the BLM of our regional representatives actually in Wisconsin. So I did send a lengthy email attaching the patent to the email, requesting that they reach out to us or point us in the right direction to have any of these conversations. So I sent that last Wednesday after we were done meeting with Grant, and I haven't heard anything as of today. But I can try again, and I can try to make a phone call too. I assume I'm going to get put into a queue of people, but I can try.
Yeah, it's pointless to
Let me
do
ask
this
this.
week.
What did you call the documents that govern this arrangement?
It's the patent with the Bureau of Land
Okay,
Management.
which is framed and in 206. If anybody wants.
That's the original.
That
Yep,
is the original, is framed and in 206. So
that's correct.
there isn't any opportunity by which the lighthouse would not be open to the public. Is that correct? Any type of ownership would have to retain the lighthouse open to the public, is my understanding.
Well, as the patent stands, it's open to the public under our ownership. Under guidance of legal counsel, according to the patent, we have to offer it back to the BLM, and then they would amend or redo the patent to allow for us to gift it, or they would take it back, or they would give it to somebody else. So what those documents would look like going forward, I guess that's to be determined on how the arrangement pans out. But as it stands now, we keep it open.
I can't, I'm sorry, I
Yeah.
can't help but think too that our residents might have some thoughts on this as well. I know being in Lake Township, I know that group, because it's in Lake Township, I know that those folks are very happy with the lighthouse, want the lighthouse. So I know we're talking about this, but I can't help but think that we need to be thinking about
Oh, sorry.
public thought on this too. It's a huge part of our Parks and Rec doc that we just voted into our plan today. And one of the things on there I noticed was a strategic plan for the lighthouse. And I don't know where our friends stand with that, but and I don't know if we help with that, but I can't help but think our residents might have something to say about our getting rid of it.
All I gotta do is write a check,
So
2 million.
I do understand that there's probably a small percentage of our population that really has that attachment to the lighthouse. The vast majority, at least the ones in my jurisdiction, don't give it a whole lot of second thought.
And probably it's mostly probably my district.
Yep.
You know,
Mhm.
Yeah,
you know,
agreed.
we're right there, and you know, I've gone a lot as a kid and as an adult, and I take my own child there, but yeah, I know.
I think it's a great facility, don't get me wrong. I've
Mhm.
enjoyed going there, and I was on the lighthouse, or liaison to the lighthouse for a little while. And it's a great group of people. It just, when I talk about it, my jurisdiction, most people are like, yeah, okay, whatever. You know, they don't, I mean, they're not the boaters out on Lake Michigan. They're not people going to the lighthouse or,
Yeah.
I think it's a financial thing. It has nothing to do with like or dislike or ability
Yeah,
to
and-
save the
and-
community. So it's just money.
And maybe that's something that we put, you know, to our folks. I don't know. I don't know how they would feel. I can't help but think, and again, it's probably mostly my district have, you know, strong feelings toward our keeping, or, you know, keeping it, you know, as ours, and keeping it public. Yeah, you're right, Tim, probably in your district,
I'm guessing in Lynn's district's the
Yep.
same.
But to echo what Gary said, that's been said already, is that this is just a function of economies. What can we afford? What's our priorities? We're more than willing to turn it over probably to the Friends, let them maintain it. But we don't even know if that's an option.
So at this point, I think our forward motion is to know what our options are, because we don't right now. Right? So this will be another topic that we're going to continue to talk about. There isn't anything that we can decide today.
Yep.
We know that the county cannot close the $2 million gap that's necessary. It's our understanding that there's an extension on the grant being sought.
Mm-hmm.
And the Friends continue to do their work to make this a viable project. And until we have more information, we'll just have to be in that space.
If I don't hear an email when we're back from the holiday, I'll try to call and see if I can get through. I mean, maybe it's not even the appropriate office that I emailed, but
Another thing that Mr. Porteous said that was interesting is that he was approached by somebody. You remember this? He was approached by somebody who said that lighthouse grants are readily available.
yeah.
And that was very interesting. He couldn't recall the person's name, but he was also intrigued by that conversation and gonna pursue that as well. So if that's an option that the Friends can, you know, utilize and take advantage of, that was also mentioned in the meeting, and I don't think any of us talked about that. That was brought up.
No, but he did say it was someone in his group that's fairly new to the group suggested that there may be some monies that they've never heard of before.
Yes.
And he wasn't in a position to even speak to it. And what changes the urgency on this is if they extend the timeline on the grant. You know, right now they've got 1 year left. My intuition tells me that the state doesn't really want the money back, that they'll probably give them an extension. And if it does, like I said, changes this discussion altogether.
And then the other question that was asked was, has anybody approached the state to ask for an increase in the grant, knowing that this gap exists that isn't being filled? And our understanding was that that question had been asked and that was not an option. So
Did they have any type of commitment to Walton, the construction company that was gonna do this, that
No, that contract had not been approved yet.
had not been approved?
No. In fact, Gary, one of the problems they're having with fundraising is that they've only got the one bid. The other problem they said is that their donors are saying, where's the community, the county in all of this? Well, we're not being given the credit of having raised the money. We're the ones that encouraged Lake Township to give. We're the ones that gave the 250. We're the ones that made all the introductions for the 5.2 million. Kind of unfair for
We
the,
didn't do anything.
yeah, to say we didn't do anything.
That's easy to criticize.
Any
And-
final comments from anybody on this?
Yeah, the last thing I'm gonna, the other obstacle, Gary, is the embezzlement that took place there. They're getting, some people's confidence was rocked and said, look I'm, till you guys figure out how that's not gonna happen again. I'm paraphrasing him, but, so those are they got some big obstacles. It's not just us. They've got their own obstacles.
Well, hopefully Katie can come up with something.
I can try to call after the
Put
holiday.
a for sale sign on it if you want.
Well, just in a quick Google search, there is a Lighthouse Preservation Society of America.
Yeah, they're in contact with them.
Okay.
Right.
There's SHPO, there's like Historical Society that
There's competitive grant programs. Have they even applied for it?
that I don't know.
Any option that didn't leave the lighthouse open to the public would be unacceptable to me. So, but that's just my position.
I think we probably won't revisit this again until after the first of the year, quite frankly, because
Unless Katie gets an answer.
Yeah.
And then we'll add
good
it
luck
back
with
in the
that.
study session.
Just gonna call up old President Trump and get him right on the phone. Didn't you know?
Speed dial.
That brings us to our last public comment. I will close public comment. I will wish everybody here a happy Thanksgiving. Thank you all for your time
Happy
today.
Thanksgiving.
And we are adjourned.
Do we
at-
need a motion?
Oh,
I made it.
Okay.
I thought. when
I
it
supported
was-
it.
I think for any meeting, if your agenda was done, you could just.
If you're the chair, you can just.
No, I don't know. We've always just,
I thought that
You
was a
guys have
Robinson-
always done a motion, but before I came here, I never was in a meeting that actually did
My
a motion.
understanding was if your agenda was complete, you could adjourn. You did.
I'm not the parliamentarian though.
But you have to remember, you have Robert's rules and then you got